Hey traders, this is Christian from Tribeca Trade Group, and this is your end of day recap for Wednesday. And whew, ton of events to go through for the day. These are tough weeks in my opinion. There's just a ton of events that are going on. It's really difficult to kind of stay focused and to not get over the tips of your skis. Weeks like this, I typically, just don't want to make mistakes and just kind of observe. Have positions on, but just be careful about risk. We talked about this pre-market in the trading room. I very much believe in what Paul Tudor Jones says. He always thinks about the downside in his positions. I think I'm probably butchering it, one of his sayings, but he always comes into the day thinking that every position that he has on is wrong. So really what I try to do is kind of take the same philosophy and say, of all the positions that I have on, do I really want these positions on? What's my risk? What could happen for the day? And then if things go the right way, then you're pleasantly surprised, right? But I try to have on a couple cheapy hedges as well, just in case things go wrong. Uh, things, I've got some insurance, right? And hedges, for me, and I think is the way that you should look at them too. Of course, the video is for information purposes only. Is that you want your hedges to go to zero, right? You put on a hedge, you want it to go to zero because then everything else in your portfolio is working. If you're making money on your hedges, then your portfolio is getting hit pretty hard. So today we'll talk about today's trades. We'll talk about I'll review some of my trades. We'll talk about the Fed. So the Fed, kind of came out and said everything that we want to hear. They said that they're open to adjusting the balance sheet. They said that they're going to be data dependent. Every headline that I kept on posting in the trading room was dovish, or was kind of, I don't want to say super dovish, but what we wanted to hear and what we wanted to hear a couple months back, right? When everybody was like, hey, why is this Fed stance so different than Janet Yellen when she said data dependent and so forth? So I don't know. It seems like they fed him a script, and it does take, right. What's the saying with the Fed is that the market tests a new Fed president. I think he was tested, and I think now he's coming around to. I don't think that the Fed wants to come out and shock the market. So anyway, so this was really nice, and what we saw, what I tend to look at, so I'm going to analyze the S&P charts, but on Fed days, what I always look at, and there's no dollar futures in Thinkorswim anymore. You have to pay for them, but I always look at the dollar. I look at gold, because these are things that if you have positions on in things like emerging markets or international ETFs, which I do, then the dollar is a huge mover. Without going into major, I'm happy to explain this concept in my trading room. But when you're long things like EEM, or if you're long FXI, or if you're long EWZ Brazil, or if you're long VGK Europe, anything international, unless they specifically say that they hedge the currency, they hold a basket of international securities. So you're essentially short the dollar. Because a lot of the emerging markets are closed right now. So why did EM go up 2.2%? Because the dollar got smoked. And somebody put on a pretty decent trade in the morning in UP. Put a nice sizable trade on in the U.S. dollar ETF. And let's wait for that to come up. But 19,000 of these contracts, about a $300,000 trade, so that's sizable, pretty far out of the money in UUP. This is all the way down to 25 and a half, so they're in the money on these a little bit. But yeah, the dollar moved down a 0.5%. That's a big move. Notice it got rejected here. And then the next thing that I look at is gold. Gold futures. We've seen a lot of gold plays that. So this kind of gave you a little bit of a head fake because the last couple days they've been buying a lot of gold miners, a lot of silver miners. Gold was up 70 basis points, and then they came out and maybe they did a little bit of hedging because they bought GDX puts today, and I saw them flash a couple times. Those were calls actually that went up that I see right there, but I see puts. This was a sweep, 8,000. So not big money, 150, so maybe 300,000. I guess that's not that small, but you could see more puts that were being swept than calls. So this was a spread. So yeah, maybe they did a little bit of hedging, but PAAS was one name that we've seen repeat call buying in. Was up 2% today. The one that I like that I tweeted out yesterday is WPM. I did not put anything on. Full disclosure, I don't have anything on in these. I just didn't want to add uh, a mining name on Fed Day because I really think anything could happen with these names. So, but this name is up pretty nicely. Where did GDX finish for the day? 1%. So that was the first move. EEM. This is a trade that I've been talking about for a while. So I went and I took profits today. I've been long some January calls. I got in, right around this break. I was on Bloomberg 2 weeks ago talking about why I like emerging markets. You can find me on Bloomberg Options Insight. So 2 weeks ago, I think it was 2 weeks ago from Thursday. So yeah, it's almost been a week and a half. But I'm in the trade that I discussed, and I put that trade on for $3. It was hitting well over $4 today. So really nice move in that one for emerging markets. So what do they do on days like this? Go back to the S&P chart. With option activity, it does pick up when you have a change in tone like we had today. And basically, my goal, as always, is to get in before all the, call, the sweeps that we see, the block trades that we see as well. This was 100,000 EEM calls, $1.7 million. Let me just go back to EM, and then I'll talk about the technicals. But this was what, the 46 calls. So I don't want to be in this. I don't want to chase that order. I want to already be in it. And a lot of the option activity that we see is late. Some of it is very good, like the UUP this morning. That was the first UUP bearish trade on the dollar that I saw. So some of it is good and it's very clever. But the majority of that I see on the tape is late. You could set these up yourselves. Like here was the signal to go long EEM was here, not here. It could still work. It's up to, this is non-dividend adjusted, so dividend adjusted, it's over the 200-day moving average. But I don't want to chase EEM after it's already up about what 6-7% since I put the trade on. No way. But I hope that it still has legs. Same thing with FXI. They were buying a lot of FXI today. And if I do that, if I decide to chase on one of these orders that we see on the tape, it's going to be in smaller size. This was another big one. This was the 43 calls. Had open interest of 58,000. I'll have to check open interest, but it looks like they probably added to this considering the price was well above. Or they could have maybe took it off for profits too. This was a below bid, so you're talking about 37,000 contracts. Maybe they locked in. 8 cents, which again is a lot of money when you're talking about that many contracts, right? $1.3 million was the initial bet on it. So again, that's kind of my stance. So that's the Fed. So let's look at where we finished. Interesting that we are now above where we were. This was what, 2 Fridays ago, was it? Not last Friday, but 2 Fridays ago was this move, and a lot of digestion, a lot of speculating, myself included, that hey, we could possibly turn back down. But again, I try to watch price and be as neutral as possible, and just kind of let the price guide me. And there was no major breakdown. We definitely had a few days where it felt like we might go lower, but so we're resolving ourselves to the upside. The next thing that's on deck, I'm going to go over some of the earnings, but just to look at the Qs, also just about a little bit higher than where we've been. But I think if you look at this in Nasdaq futures, you're going to see it's probably through there. It kind of looks like that S&P futures chart. The Russell small caps, also looking a little bit higher than where they were. Not last Friday, but the Friday before. So all in all, looking pretty good. Now we still are not out of the woods. We still have, we haven't heard anything. I didn't really hear too much regarding regarding the trades, the trade meeting, that's happening with China. That's going to be very big. So you continue to, and again, I'll get to. We're already almost 10 minutes into the video, and I haven't talked about earnings at all. But I want to address that. The market could be herky jerky with what they say of the conclusion of this meeting. The one headline that I said that I saw was that they're going to meet two more times, I believe, before that deadline of March 31st. But if you listen to a lot of these earnings calls, a lot of them are citing China weakness. So this a trade deal should, I believe, needs to happen this year. I don't know if they're going to make it by that deadline, but I know there's still some sticking points. All right, so let me talk about let me talk about today's earnings, because literally all today's events I could speak for a good 40 minutes, and I don't want to do that. I like to keep it under 20 minutes. And then I want to talk about a couple of the movers after hours. Microsoft, not so good. This is down to 102. So today, after the close, I think there was more positives. Microsoft is basically back down to where it was in the beginning of the week, it looks like. So not that bad. Maybe it's a buying opportunity. It just looked like their quarter was so-so. It didn't look like it was horrible. If you read some of these headlines, I did not play Microsoft. I did not play Facebook. I'll talk about the names that I did play. So I'll have to go through. Since the company keeps spending on cloud capex, company sees good cloud demand, so that's good. I was mostly concerned with Microsoft because I own a few of the enterprise application software names, and I don't want an earnings report from a company like Microsoft kind of derailing that rally. But I think it's okay. Um, Facebook, again, did not play this one. Great for those who went long Facebook. This one's look at what Google's doing. I was long Google going in today. I by accident made a little bit of mistake and sold the whole Google position that I had on. Of course, this thing's up to up $15. Excuse me, up 20 more than $20 after the close. PayPal. Also, I actually bought a little bit of shares after the close here in PayPal. It's kind of, I think this earnings season is really about where stocks have been and, the expectations. PayPal had already run nicely. So while I like the company, I just don't think that there was a trade. And I wasn't going to fade PayPal. I like the company, but no reason for me to go long here. So I actually bought a little bit on the weakness. And we'll see how that goes. Not a bad report out of PayPal. The two names that I played are ServiceNow, which I talked about yesterday on Bloomberg. I was live on Bloomberg. I did their option insight program. So I said this company has great consistency of earnings, and it looks like they did it again. You could go ahead and look at this here on the nice Bloomberg terminal. You could see in this right column what the reaction, very, very positive reactions to earnings. So that's how I tend to kind of look. I look for consistency. Visa, I also went long, which is coming in a little bit. I'm long the 139, 142 call spread. So I think, I thought Visa set up pretty well. It hadn't done anything really, but I thought good numbers from Visa. I'll go to the daily. So those were the two names that I went that I went long for earnings. Um, so we'll see how that one shapes up for tomorrow. There's going to be some other ones. Citrix was another one that I thought had a good report. Tesla Win also reported. I'm not going to go over all these names, but this one looks like it's actually down now. So what did I do today? I took a lot of profits. I actually added a couple trades today because I saw a lot of call buying. So call buying was centered around this morning, yeah, after AMD. A lot of semi names. There was some call buying, and I like the SMH ETF. I like the technicals. So Intel calls being bought. ON Semiconductor, Lam Research also saw calls. So the SMH. I don't really want to get long Intel. I think there's better names, but the Intel is one of the biggest weights in SMH. So I was able to party of that trade off today for profits. So just kind of got a little bit lucky with this one. Square was a name that I added yesterday into the weakness. I took some of that position off today, was up 4%. So really, really nice. JD.com got a huge move off of BABA, and also the dollar getting weaker. So up 4.7% today. I was able to take a target in this one. Really nice. I'm also long IQ. IQ really didn't move today. It was up still at 1%, not bad. But nice move. The casinos, Las Vegas Sands, huge move today, right out of that consolidation. I talked about Las Vegas Sands the day after earnings. They went nuts going after calls on Las Vegas Sands, and it looks like they were rewarded today. Most option activity I've seen in a long time for the amount of options that all kinds of options that we saw in Las Vegas Sands. 2020 call options. Again, this was the day of earnings after they reported. People bought the weakness. There was also a huge call spread that we saw in Las Vegas Sands. So that's big institutional positioning. That's what I do look for when I see option activity is, what the reaction was there. So I know I'm skipping over a few names, but I think that's it for today. Again, just balance your risk. Oh, Autodesk was another name that we added today. We talked about Autodesk the last couple of days, up 4%. This thing ran after the Fed meeting as well, so really nice there as well. What else? I feel like I'm forgetting a name. Salesforce woke up today. Salesforce has just kind of been sitting around, hanging around. This name is always really nice to kind of buy in a weakness. We put this in the weekend newsletter as a play. QLYS is another one that I added 2 days ago. This one I got a little bit whipsawed on. I put on QLYS here, and it did a fake out, and I sold out of it. But you keep the alert on, and if it does make the move, I wanted to be back in it. So up 2% today, and just finally clearing the 200-day moving average. I think this one looks really good. I have not taken a profit target in that one yet. Cyber, another one that we added recently. Whew, nice move higher. All right, so I'll leave it there. But guys, if you're not a member of Tribeca Trade Group, this is the setups that we try to be. Again, I'm always worried about my risk, but I think some of the plays that we've put on have really worked well. They've been really nice technical setups in some of the single stocks that we've been following. Guys, thanks for watching. Have a great night. See you tomorrow.